The son of Rampage Jackson is in some legal hot water, some serious legal trouble after a brawl that went down with a Psycho Stu the other day, and this absolutely is going to have some serious legal repercussions. We're talking about that today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. This is the fast facts version, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. If you like this, make sure you like the video and leave a comment on this below. And of course, I'm a little bit on mini vacation here, so it's not my home studio, but we're going to really get into this. And of course, I've got a PowerPoint for you. So let's jump right into that on the Raja Jackson attack. Now, many of you may know Raja Jackson is the son of course, Rampage Jackson. You have them on the left, Rampage, you got his daughter there, and then you got Raja right there on the right. And this went down just this week, and he is now being investigated by the LAPD that are looking into this beating of an unconscious opponent. I am not going to play this video because YouTube has been coming down really hard on people that have been showing this image that's censored is kind of enough. But I can just describe you to the fact that the opponent, Mr. Psycho Stu, was absolutely knocked out. He was absolutely flat. He was not responding, and it had to be to the point where people were pulling him off, had to pull Raja off because he was beating this unconscious man and continued to do it for an uncomfortable amount of time. Watching the video was very uncomfortable. I watched the whole thing, and there have been many experts that have commented on this and given commentary. I am not an expert in neither MMA nor wrestling nor fighting in general, but I am a person who knows about the law. And when you see somebody who is unconscious, one big thing that pops out is whatever consent they would have had for the fight is gone now. Most people do not consent to continue to be beaten while they were unconscious. And there is a limit, even within fights, even within rings, even within MMA or any other form of sanctioned fighting, that at a certain point, this is too far, and there is no legal protection. There is no waiver. There's no really thing that's going to get you out of this per se. Now we're going to talk about some defenses for Raja, what he might bring up that might minimize things, but there is no kind of complete waiver or some kind of complete loss of liability or protection from liability that you would have through some sort of contract. So let's continue here. We have a statement from his dad, from Rampage, and I actually think this was very thoughtful and very balanced. And I wanted to read this because I thought that was actually very thoughtful. And coming from somebody who's both a fighter and a dad, I think this was a good statement. So saying, I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raja. I've been confirmed that the wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu, is awake and stable. Now, as an update, which I'll have on the next page, he is still in critical condition. Raja was unexpectedly hit in the side of the head by him moments before the match. Raja was told that he could get his payback, quote unquote, in the ring. I thought it was part of the show. It was a bad judgment and work that went wrong. Raja is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business involved in an event like this. I don't condone my son's actions at all. He suffered from a concussion from sparring days ago. Now that's a relevant point that's going to come from the defense, and had no business doing anything remotely close to physical contact. As a father, I'm deeply concerned with his health and the well-being of Mr. Smith. That being said, I'm very upset that any of this happened, but my main concern now is Mr. Smith will make a speedy recovery, and I apologize on his behalf and a kick for the situation. So now, of course, some people will debate these facts, and I'm not here to debate the facts or whether or not what happened before the ring and the encounter before the ring. What I'm looking at is what video we saw during the encounter, and also the current condition, which if you look at this, Psycho Stu is currently stable but in critical care after the disturbing attack he suffered on Raja Jackson on August 23rd, according to his brother. The family asked supporters to keep the wrestler, whose real name is Stuart Smith, in their prayers as they're focused on his recovery. So he is not dead. That's a relevant fact legally, right? Because obviously if this was a fatality, then there would be something else on the line. There'd be some very, very serious charges on the line, which we'll get into right now. So obviously you have attempted murder. That's something that people have been throwing around. That's in all the clickbait, thumbnails, etc. Now, whether or not this is an attempted murder is going to be based on intent. How it reads in the state is intended to cause death as opposed to serious harm. And their actions were directed towards achieving that intent, but ultimately ineffective in completing it. Meaning they tried to get rid of this person, tried to end them, and only because of whatever else happened did that not happen. So it has to be specific intent of death, not of serious bodily harm. So if you just intend to mess somebody up, to hurt them a lot, that is actually not enough. That would actually not be enough under the relevant statute. Now, it can be first-degree murder, which is premeditated, or second-degree murder, which is a little bit closer to manslaughter. For those that are familiar with the statutes, we're going to talk about manslaughter next. But in this case, the specific intent is the biggest thing that is going to be the hurdle for prosecutors if they wanted to go this route. Next is manslaughter, and manslaughter is the unlawful killing of another without malice. It does not require malicious intent, and this can either be a sudden fight or a heat of passion in the case of voluntary manslaughter, or involuntary manslaughter, which occurs when committing another felony. The problem with manslaughter is there's no attempted manslaughter. So the fact that he's not dead, right, that there isn't a killing here, right, kind of negates this one. So while a lot of people have been throwing around the word manslaughter, it really won't work as an attempted manslaughter. There's attempted murder, and then there's other things, which we're going to get into, but there's not attempted manslaughter. So that one is probably not going to be the thing here. Battery, definitely something that everybody can consider. And if you consider murder at the top end and battery at the low end, battery is one that, as you're going to see here, it looks a lot more possible. So a battery is essentially when a defendant, in this case Raja, willfully and unlawfully touched another in a harmful or offensive manner and was not justified. So a lot of people confuse assault and battery. Assault is the threat of harm, and there has to be a fear, right, that's accompanying that threat. And battery is the completed act. So battery is you've not just threatened somebody, but you've gone and done the thing. You've actually gone and touched the person, you've harmed the person. So harmful or offensive manner means you physically harmed somebody, or it was done in an angry, rude, or disrespectful way that the victim found offensive. Well, this is, of course, beyond angry and rude or disrespectful. I mean, you're unconscious. You're being beaten while you're unconscious. Obviously, that is physically harmful, right? And there's no justification. So the justifications in the relevant statute are usually self-defense, defense of others, or disciplining a child. That's not what we had here. So battery, not looking good for Raja. Now, there are some defenses. There's mutual combat, which is a limited defense, not a total defense. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it is a limited defense against assault or battery, but only in the specific circumstance where both parties clearly and willingly participated without the intent to cause serious injury. So there's a lot of problems there. The willfulness, the consent. Obviously, there's not a consent to be beaten unconscious. So that's kind of out of the picture. And beyond that, the intent to cause serious injury, it looks like from what we see, there's an intent to cause serious injury. It did not look like there was an intent to just, have the fight and step back under the rules, right? And even if this did apply, which it likely doesn't, it's not a full defense. It's incomplete defense. It doesn't fully protect from criminal or civil liability. It just might mitigate that. And serious injuries, like we have here, critical condition in the hospital, are typically still illegal, even in mutual combat. And combat often, if it goes beyond that consent, the consent of the original fight, it's out. And that's what I think we see here. Now, what the concussion might come up with, and might come up as a defense, is diminished actuality. This is actually changed from the diminished capacity defense. Some people are aware of that one. But what this means is the defendant, in this case Raja, did not have the necessary specific intent due to a mental disease, defect, or disorder. So what Rampage argued, and I don't know whether he knew he was making a legal argument or not, but that fact from Rampage's message was very relevant because a concussion has been proven in other cases to form the basis for diminished actuality if it prevented them from having a specific intent. So if it hurt their brain in a way that they couldn't think and form that intent, well, that could prevent something like, for example, an attempted murder. You can't prove attempted murder if you have no specific intent. So that would negate that. Might not negate a battery, right? So that's an issue for battery, but it might negate him from attempted murder. This would require an expert analysis, expert testimonies. You have to get a lot of people backing this up and saying this actually happened, but it is indeed possible. The other thing people aren't talking about right now, everyone's focused on the civil, but there's everyone's focused on the criminal and they're forgetting the civil, the tort side. There is massive liability on the civil side. not criminal, civil. So criminal, we're going to probably have something going down there. That's being investigated. LAPD are looking into that. But we've got over here civil, and that's what people are really quiet on because there's massive monetary damages here for either battery or intentional infliction of emotional distress. And battery under civil law is a little bit different. It's intentionally causing an unconsented, harmful, or offensive contact, which a reasonable person would find offensive without consent. I think that's a slam dunk. That's an absolute slam dunk from a civil liability standpoint. A reasonable person looking at that can just know that that went beyond what was consented to, that was not reasonable, that was not, something that you can look at and as a human feel like, yeah, this is normal, right? So battery, slam dunk. Intentional infliction of emotional distress is extreme and outrageous conduct by the defendant that was intended or recklessly disregardful of causing severe emotional distress to the victim. So this one, I think most people would call it extreme and outrageous. So that's very possible. And the emotional distress, I mean, you're putting critical condition. So I think that's something that might be relatively easy to prove, especially even compared to the criminal side. I wonder what you guys think. Do you think he's going to be held liable in a criminal court, in civil court? Do you think there'll be massive damages, a settlement? What do you guys think in the comments below? I will catch you on the next one.